Eerie laughter faded as consciousness returned. The lights hurt his eyes as he blinked them open. Cold. Clinical. White enough to feel like they were drilling straight through his skull. For a moment he didn't move. Couldn't. His body felt wrong, heavy yet hollow. Like something powerful that had forgotten how to exist. A low hum surrounded him, steady and indifferent. The air smelled sterile, sharp, and unnatural. He turned his head slowly. Smooth panels, strip lighting. Where was he? Not a cave, not outdoors. A room, a facility. His chest rose sharply as instinct kicked in, but the instinct had no memory attached to it. No name, no past. Just a pulse of alertness, like a weapon waking up without knowing who held the trigger.
What?
His voice came out rough, layered, human, but with a faint rasp beneath it. Something deeper, something not quite right. He pushed himself upright. That's when the restraints snapped. Metal brackets along the side of the bed tore free with a violent crack. Bolts ripping out like they'd been made of soft wood instead of reinforced steel. He froze and looked down. His hands, if they were hands, were strange. Longer fingers with slight webbing. Dark blue skin, almost black until under the light, covered in intricate tattoo-like patterns that weren't ink. They were part of him. Scales, subtle but unmistakable. He flexed. The muscles responded instantly, perfectly. A shadow shifted to his side. His head snapped towards the movement. A full-length observation window, and the length of the room. And behind it, people. 5 figures stood watching. None of them spoke, because inside the room, Sliver had just seen himself. His reflection in the glass. 7.5 feet of something that should not exist. A humanoid frame, but stretched, perfected, weaponized. Dark blue scaled skin with deep flowing patterns across his body. Broad shoulders lined with natural spikes. A long, powerful tail coiled instinctively behind him. His face was reptilian. Human structure, but elongated. Eyes slightly too sharp. Pupils adjusting with unnatural precision. No nose, save for 2 nostril bumps. He was a creature, not a man.
No!
His voice cracked, not from emotion, but from confusion. So raw it bordered on panic.
No! That's not...
But there was nothing else it could be. He looked down at his hands, then back at the reflection. Then the glass door hissed open, locks disengaging. Hank Laydon stepped in first. Slow, measured, but cautious. "Easy," he said, voice calm but firm. "No one's here to hurt you." His head snapped toward him instantly. Too fast. Every instinct in his body screamed threat, but it had nowhere to anchor itself. No training, no memory, just raw, unfiltered readiness.
Who are you?
Name's Hank Laydon. That's my brother Malcolm and his team. He gestured behind him briefly. "You're safe." Safe? The word meant nothing to him.
Who am I?
He asked, quieter now, but far more dangerous. Malcolm Laydon watched, hands clasped behind his back, expression calm, calculating. "Memory loss confirmed," he said softly to the technicians beside him. "You don't remember?" Hank asked. Sliver shook his head slowly.
No, I don't remember anything.
A flicker passed between the team outside. Hank exhaled slowly, then gave the only answer he could. "You're one of Malcolm's." His gaze dropped again, back to his hands. The reflection that still didn't feel real.
One of Malcolm's.
He repeated. The words didn't sit right. Nothing did. Somewhere, deep in the back of his mind, something moved. Not a memory. Not yet. But something. It felt like he was being watched. Malcolm Laydon entered the room. "Sliver," he said. "Your name is Sliver." He looked up at Malcolm.
What am I?
"You're one of my assets," Malcolm replied. "Don't you remember anything at all?"
Assets?
He repeated, looking back at his reflection. Malcolm and Hank glanced at each other. Hank shook his head, then stepped out of the room. "Sliver, do you recognize yourself?" Malcolm asked. But he already knew the answer. Sliver shook his head while staring at himself in the window. He didn't recognize anything. He felt as if newborn, like he was seeing everything for the first time. "How do you feel?" Malcolm asked, studying him.
Sleepy. And
And what? Malcolm questioned.
I thought I was a man, but I don't know what is looking back at me.
"You're more than a mere man," stated Malcolm, straightening up. "You are a biological miracle."
I look like a monster.
"Yes. Well, looks can be deceiving," Malcolm stated. "Look, we have a lot to discuss, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions. But for now, get some rest. I'll have food brought to you, and I'll explain everything when you're ready." Sliver looked back at Malcolm, his white coat, his judging stare, and nodded. Malcolm smiled. "All right then, unless there's anything else, I'll leave you to it." He turned to leave.
What's in the set?
Malcolm stopped in the doorway. "It's one of my greatest creations," he replied. He smiled. Then he left, locking the door behind him. Sliver sat for a time, studying himself. His scaled skin, his spiked shoulders, the webbing between his fingers, his tail. He had no memory of what he was supposed to look like, but for some reason he imagined himself as human. Eventually the door opened once more. Two men dressed in guard uniforms, and a woman pushing a trolley. She left the trolley beside his bed and went without any words. There was a meal laid out for him on a plate, a roast lamb shank as big as a bowling pin, and a huge bowl full of fries. It smelt amazing. He tucked into the meal with delight, then lay back down, belly full, and fell fast asleep. He didn't sleep long. The lights in the room had been dimmed to a warm glow, and the machines silenced. He sat, wondering where he came from, where he was, and what he was. Time passed, but it meant nothing. Seconds, minutes, hours maybe. The lights never changed. His body remained still, but his mind kept circling the same void. No memories, no past, just awareness. He was standing by the glass when he noticed it, a figure on the other side, still watching. The room was dark, but even without knowing who it was, Sliver felt it immediately. Authority, control, ownership. The figure stepped up to the glass. It was Malcolm Laydon. Their eyes met. Malcolm didn't move for a moment. He was studying him like a finished product being inspected for flaws. Then, with a small gesture to someone off screen, the door unlocked again. It slid open with a soft hiss, and Malcolm stepped inside. Unlike the others, he carried no visible tension, no readiness to fight, just calm, precise confidence, hands behind his back, posture perfect. "Good," he said, voice smooth and measured. "You're mobile." Sliver didn't respond straight away. His eyes narrowed slightly, studying the man the way a predator might study something it didn't yet understand.
You've been watching me.
"Of course," Malcolm replied. "You've been unavailable for quite some time." Sliver looked at Malcolm, waiting. Then he stepped forward slightly, his tail shifting behind him unconsciously.
Who am I? Start talking.
Malcolm tilted his head faintly, as if considering how much to say. Then he began. You were, he said, an elite cryptid hunter. It's one of my best assets. Sliver's brow furrowed.
What's an asset?
Malcolm ignored the interruption and continued. You specialized in high-risk entities, things most teams wouldn't even engage. You were deployed on a mission involving a red-haired female target. She was someone you'd been tracking for weeks. A flicker of a memory, barely anything. But something in Sliver's mind twitched. Feeling, gone as quickly as it came.
What happened to me?
Malcolm's gaze sharpened slightly. She used an object. Containment vessel. Sealed inside it was an entity. Not physical. Not in any conventional sense. Sliver's jaw tightened without him realizing why. It got into your mind, Malcolm continued. Didn't kill you. Didn't damage your body. It imprisoned you. Sliver frowned.
In my mind.
Yes. Malcolm stepped a little closer, voice lowering slightly, not out of secrecy, but precision. You were conscious, trapped, but unable to move, respond, or return. For over 4 years, Sliver stared at him.
I don't remember that.
You wouldn't, Malcolm said simply. Your mind protected itself. Or perhaps it was altered. Sliver exhaled slowly, processing.
Then how am I here?
Marta, Malcolm said. The name hit differently. Not a memory, but something softer. A ripple. She's one of Hank's psychics, Malcolm continued. She entered your mind, found you, broke whatever hold that entity had, and brought you out. Sliver's eyes lifted slightly.
Where is she?
Alive, Malcolm said. Stable, but unconscious. That mattered to him more than Sliver expected.
Can I see her?
No. The answer was immediate, controlled and practiced. She is now in the same condition you were, Malcolm added, and your current state is unverified. Sliver's eyes hardened.
You mean you don't trust me?
What I mean, Malcolm said calmly, is I don't waste variables. A tense silence followed, then Sliver straightened, processing, adapting.
What am I?
Malcolm didn't hesitate. You are an asset, he said plainly. Controlled genetic construct designed for high-risk cryptid engagement. Sliver's jaw tightened.
That's not an answer.
Malcolm inclined his head slightly. Very well. You were born of a human embryo. Your DNA was fused with multiple cryptid genomes. Amphibian, reptilian, mammalian strains. Sliver's eyes flicked down to his arms again. The primary templates, Malcolm continued, were derived from what you would classify as frogmen, lizardmen, bullmen. These gave you certain adaptations: strength, size, endurance. Sliver exhaled slowly.
So, you made me...
Yes. A fertilized human egg was used as the base, Malcolm said, as if explaining a routine procedure. The genetic material was integrated at the earliest viable stage. You were grown, accelerated, and trained.
Why?
Malcolm held his gaze, studying him. To hunt monsters. A flicker of something passed across Sliver's expression. Not memory, more like instinct, recognizing purpose.
So, I'm just a tool.
Malcolm straightened and cleared his throat. You're an asset, he corrected. Sliver sat on the bed, thinking for a moment. Then he looked up at Malcolm.
So what happens now?
Malcolm's expression returned fully to that commanding, cold, measured calm. Now, he said, we determine what you are capable of. Sliver didn't like the sound of that, but he didn't argue, because, deep down, he needed to know too. Malcolm turned toward the door. Follow me. The corridors of the Laydon biofacility were vast, sterile, and humming with quiet purpose. Sliver walked beside Malcolm, every step heavy but controlled. His tail moved subtly behind him, balancing without thought. His senses, sharp and overwhelming, picked up everything. Footsteps echoing 3 halls over. The faint electrical buzz in the walls. Air movement through vents. It was too much. And yet so natural.
What if I fail?
You won't, Malcolm said with confidence. I just want to see how much your body remembers. They reached a large reinforced door. It slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a vast training hall, with high ceilings, reinforced walls, and impact-scarred flooring. Sections of the room looked like they'd been torn apart and rebuilt more than once. Sliver slowed. His body reacted before his mind did. Every inch of the space felt familiar. He didn't remember, yet he just knew.
What is this place?
Malcolm stepped aside slightly, gesturing inward. The doors sealed behind them. Then, a mechanical whir began. Across the hall, something powered up. A humanoid shape unfolded from a docking frame, sleek and metallic, glowing faintly along its joints. Its head snapped upward, with a sharp, precise motion as its optics flared to life. A combat android, 6 feet tall and heavily armored, built for efficiency, not intimidation. Sliver stared at it. His breathing slowed, not from fear, from focus. Fight it, Malcolm said calmly. Sliver didn't move. He stood ready, as if he already knew what was happening.
But I don't even know what I am,
he replied, tension creeping into his voice. Malcolm looked at him sternly. That doesn't change what you can do. Now fight it and don't hold anything back. The android stepped forward. 1 step, then 2, and then it lunged. Fast, too fast for a normal human to react to. But Sliver moved before the thought even formed. His body twisted sharply, the android's strike missing his head by inches as he pivoted on instinct alone. His tail snapped out behind him, stabilizing the motion perfectly. Sliver froze for half a second.
Wow, I didn't think I could do that.
The android attacked again. A rapid sequence. Punch, elbow, low sweep. Sliver reacted to all of it, blocking, deflecting, shifting his weight with unnatural precision. His webbed hands gripped the android's arm mid-strike. And crack. It punched him right on the nose. He barely felt it. He applied more pressure. The metal warped under his grip like it was tinfoil. Sliver recoiled, staring at his own hand in shock. But the android didn't stop. It adapted. Its other arm drove forward. Harder and faster. This time it connected. Sliver took the hit to the chest. The impact echoed through the hall. But he barely moved. His body absorbed it, like it was nothing. Then something changed in his eyes. Not emotion. Something colder. The hesitation completely disappeared. The android attacked again. This time, Sliver met it head-on. He stepped into the strike, grabbed the android by the head with both hands, and slammed it into the ground hard enough to crater its reinforced head plates. The entire hall shook. The android twitched, systems trying to recover. But Sliver didn't let it. He drove his foot down onto its chest. And again, its armor buckled inward. On the third strike, sparks erupted below his foot. And the machine went still. Sliver stood over it, breathing steady. Too steady. No adrenaline spike. No fear. No anger. Just completion. Sliver slowly stepped back from the wreckage. He looked down at his hands again. At the twisted metal still caught between his fingers. Then up at Malcolm.
What have you done to me?
Malcolm's expression didn't change. I made you effective.
That's not what I asked.
Then Malcolm stepped forward slightly. You are what happens when limits are removed, he said. Amphibian, reptilian, mammalian, human. Every system refined, every weakness addressed. Sliver's jaw tightened.
I didn't ask to be like this.
No, you didn't, Malcolm agreed calmly. I did. That landed harder than anything the android could have done. Sliver looked back at the broken robot, then at the room, then at himself. He was a weapon, built, used, and now revived anew. Do you understand what an asset is now? Malcolm asked.
A slave.
No, not at all. You're a warrior, an asset. Malcolm studied his reaction, which was more disappointment than anything.
What do assets do?
Malcolm smiled as he led him from the training hall. Assets. Hunt monsters, mostly, which is what you've been doing for years, and what I would have you do again. Sliver walked beside him, listening with interest. For now, Malcolm continued, I'll show you back to your room. I'll summon you soon with a task capable of easing you back in. But I have a matter I must attend to first. Malcolm studied him the entire time. His posture, how he reacted to each piece of information. But he showed nothing. His face showed nothing but disappointment. Malcolm remembered how he was before. The emotionless vessel he'd created, that executed orders without question or complaint. And now he's revived at last. But with worrying change? Will he still follow orders? Only time will tell. They stopped outside Sliver's room. I will call for you soon, Malcolm said. Get some rest if you can. Sliver walked slowly into the room and sat down heavily on the bed. Malcolm closed the door and locked it tight. Sliver sat thinking. Why couldn't he remember anything about his life before? And that word, asset, it held a sour taste on the tongue. Malcolm said assets were like warriors, hunters. But from where he sat in his locked room, he felt more like a brand new inmate. He almost felt the shackles around his ankles. A headache arose from an overworking mind. So he laid down for rest, and rest quickly found him. However, it was short-lived once more. This time, he awoke with vague memories of half-formed figures, like shadows of a past, buried in the far reaches of his mind. The call came soon after. The monitor on the wall lit up. It was Malcolm.
Sliver, if you would care to join me in the preparation chamber,
He said.
I have something I'd like you to take care of for me.
Sliver stood looking at the monitor puzzled. He understood what he had to do, but he had no idea where this chamber was. Suddenly, a map of the facility wing popped up on the monitor. He studied it a moment, then tried his room door. It was unlocked. He exited the room and made his way towards the targeted chamber. Malcolm didn't give speeches. He gave assignments. Sliver walked into the preparation chamber slowly, the low hum of machinery vibrating through the floor beneath his feet. Fresh gear had been laid out for him, most of which seemed strangely familiar. Malcolm circled him slowly, observing like a craftsman inspecting his work. Your performance was satisfactory, he said. Sliver didn't respond at all. His eyes were distant, not unfocused, but searching, like he was constantly trying to find something just out of reach. A field test is required, Malcolm continued. Just a simple one. Sliver finally looked at him.
Field test.
Yes, a criminal elephant morph. He escaped transport 2 weeks ago. He's real big, but not particularly intelligent. Last known location, southern Mexico. Sliver's expression didn't change. Track, capture, return, Malcolm stated bluntly. pause. Then,
And if I don't?
Malcolm met his gaze evenly. "You will," he said flatly. "Where else would you go?" He studied him openly, curiously, then brought up a projection of the elephant morph. "He's almost 10 feet tall. Grinds buildings to rubble in his wake," Malcolm said. Sliver watched the image stampede through a hardware store. "You think you can handle him?" Malcolm asked.
You want me to force this giant to come back here with me?
"Exactly.
How?
The same way as you always have," Malcolm said calmly. "Rough them up and drag them in." Sliver glanced at him, then back to the image.
But he's so big. Is that possible?
"It used to be," he replied. Then he turned to the door. "But just in case, I've got an elite team ready to back you up, just until you get your head in order. I'll meet them on the transport. Oh, and make sure you wear your transponder at all times. It's in your bedside drawer." Then he left, closing the door behind him. His instincts told him to use the equipment laid out for him, so he put on the all-black armor-plated suit, holstered the strangely familiar weaponry, and headed for the transport vehicle. The rotors were already spinning when Sliver approached the transport chopper. Wind tore across the landing pad, whipping at anything loose, but he walked through it without hesitation. Each step was measured, heavy. The side door was open, voices spilling out, loud, overlapping, and arguing about something completely irrelevant. Sliver paused just outside for a fraction of a second, and stepped in. "I'm telling you, it counts as a clean takedown if he's still breathing," said one horsey voice. "Barely breathing isn't clean. That's luck," laughed another in a more squeaky pitch. "Wait up. Hold that thought," grunted a rough, commanding tone as he entered. 5 heads turned toward him at once. "Blimey," one of them muttered. Sliver stood in the doorway, filling it, and it was built to transport beastfolk. 7.5 feet of scaled, dark blue patterned mass, tail swishing low behind him, eyes cold and unreadable, shoulder spikes poking through the custom-made armor. He said nothing. Inside the chopper wasn't what he'd expected. They were a mix, a very loud mix, of beast agents like him. Massive buffaloman, as tall as himself, was the first to stand, grinning like he'd just found something fun to break. His horns curved wide, his shoulders huge even by beastfolk standards. "Well, I'll be damned," he said. "That's gotta be him." He thumped his chest. "Dozer. That's what you call me." Next to him sat a towering moose man, having to tilt his head slightly to avoid clipping the ceiling with his antlers. He gave Sliver a relaxed wave, like this was all completely normal. "Call me Timber," he said, "and don't mind him. He hits things for fun." "Only when I'm awake," Dozer shot back. A blur zipped past Sliver's side. Something small, fast. Then suddenly a ferret man was perched on one of the seats, leaning forward, holding 2 daggers with a grin way too wide. "I'm Zip," he chirped. "Fastest thing you'll never catch." He vanished again almost instantly, reappearing on the opposite side like he couldn't physically stay still. Sliver didn't react. He just watched. A more composed figure stepped forward. A German Shepherd-type dog man. Gear neat, posture straight, and eyes sharp. "Sarge," he said, voice steady. "We're the support team on this." Behind him, Boots dropped from a seat. The last team member stood. A white tiger man. The difference was immediate. Where the others filled the space with noise, he filled it with control. He was almost 8 feet and powerful, every movement precise. Pale fur marked with faint stripes, his eyes sharp and assessing as they locked onto Sliver. The room settled without anyone being told to. "Commander Frost," he said. No nickname energy, just fact. He stepped closer. Close enough to properly size him up. There was no fear in his expression, just evaluation. So, Frost said, you're the asset that needs babysitting. Sliver finally spoke.
Apparently.
His voice cut through the silence like a blade, low, layered, and unnatural. The team exchanged quick glances. Zip leaned over to Sarge and whispered, not in the least bit quietly. Does he always sound like that? Sarge didn't take his eyes off Sliver. Looks like it. Dozer grinned wider. I like him already. The quiet type means he hits hard. Timber chuckled, or he's thinking about killing us. Could be both, Zip added. Frost didn't react to any of it. His focus stayed on Sliver. Do you understand the mission? Frost asked.
Track and capture. No kill. Unless necessary.
Good. He gestured behind him. Then get in. Wheels up in 30 seconds. He took a position near the side, standing rather than sitting. The others went back to their chaos almost immediately. Zip bouncing between seats. Dozer cracking his knuckles. Timber adjusting gear like none of this was unusual. Sarge running a final check on equipment, but Frost remained. Still, always aware. The chopper lifted, and as the ground fell away, Sliver's gaze drifted across the team. They joked. They laughed. They were messy, uncontrolled, but alive. And then he looked at his own reflection in the darkened window. Still, silent and empty. Frost's voice cut through the noise. You've worked with teams before. Sliver didn't look away from the reflection.
I don't remember.
That got a reaction. Small, but real. Frost studied him for a moment, then grinned. So stay close, he said. And don't get in their way. Zip grinned over his shoulder. Or do. Makes it interesting. Sliver didn't respond, but something about that word lingered. Interesting. He didn't know what that felt like. Was their strange behavior interesting? He didn't know yet, but he wanted to find out. So he observed what they said and did. He didn't speak, just watched and listened. The jungle didn't hide something that big. It announced it. Whole bushes flattened. Trees leaning at unnatural angles, some simply broken in half. The ground itself looked churned and broken. Something massive had forced its way through without care for anything in its path. The chopper circled once before setting down in a clearing barely big enough to hold it. The moment the team hit the ground, they saw its tracks, deep, fresh, and obvious. Dozer let out a snort. Yeah, subtle ain't this guy's style, is it? Timber crouched slightly, glancing over the disturbed earth. He's not even trying to hide. Zip was already moving ahead, weaving through trees. I think I see him. Zip, hold position, Sarge snapped. A crash echoed ahead, heavy and slow. The commander gave the signal, and they followed. The team moved in fast now, spreading slightly as they advanced. Sliver didn't speak, didn't signal. He just followed the destruction, and then they saw him. The elephant morph stood in a shallow clearing, massive frame partially turned away, trunk twitching, ears flaring. He easily towered over all of them. Muscles thick beneath rough gray skin, tusks long and jagged. He turned as they approached, eyes wild. Frost stepped forward slightly, raising a hand. Easy, big guy, he called out, voice firm but controlled. You're done running. The elephant morph huffed loudly, stomping his feet. The ground shook under the impact. There's nowhere left to go, Sarge added. Even if you get away from us, they won't let you just go. Yeah, Timber said, hand slightly raised. Just come in. No need to make it worse. Dozer cracked his neck. Or do. Your call. Not helpful, Sarge muttered. Zip circled slightly, keeping distance but staying ready. Look at him, He knows he's done. Frost didn't move closer. "Listen," he said, locking eyes with the massive creature. "You run, we follow. That's how this works. You don't like it any more than you, but we don't stop until you're caught." Dozer finished bluntly. Or killed. The elephant morph's breathing grew heavier, faster. His eyes flicked between them, calculating. Then he roared and charged. The ground thundered beneath him. "Move," Sarge barked, and the team split instantly. All except one, Sliver. He didn't think, didn't plan, didn't hesitate. He just moved forward, straight at it. "Bloody hell," Zip shouted. Sliver accelerated unnaturally fast, closing the distance in seconds. The elephant morph swung a massive arm. Sliver ducked under it, twisting his body sharply. First strike, a brutal hit to the ribs. Second, a snapping elbow into the side of the knee. Third, a driving punch into the lower torso that forced a grunt from the massive creature. The momentum didn't stop there. Sliver flowed, like he'd done this 1,000 times. The elephant morph tried to grab him as he launched strike after strike, but he was way too slow. Sliver pivoted, launched upward, and climbed the beast. Using sheer force and precision, he hauled himself up onto the creature's back, then onto the shoulders. "Get him off it," Timber shouted, but Sliver was already there, perched on its shoulders, balanced. He started hitting fast and relentless. Each strike hammered down onto the elephant morph's head with brutal mechanical precision. No hesitation, no pause, no emotion. Just impact after impact, after impact. "Sliver, that's enough," Frost shouted. Sliver didn't respond. The elephant morph staggered, roaring in pain, trying to reach up, but Sliver stayed just out of reach. Continuing the assault like nothing else existed, the massive body buckled. Knees hit the ground, and still, Sliver didn't stop. "Oi, oi." Dozer charged in, grabbing at Sliver's arm. "He's down." Sarge moved in from the other side. "Pull him off." It took 3 of them. Dozer, Sarge, and Timber. 2 physically dragged Sliver off the collapsing elephant morph, pulling him back as the massive creature hit the ground, barely conscious. Sliver struggled for half a second, then stopped. Just stopped, as if a switch had been flipped. His breathing was steady, like nothing had happened. The team stared at him for a moment, then Zip broke the silence. "All right," he said slowly. "Yeah, he's definitely the scary one." Dozer grinned wide. "That was bloody brilliant." Timber laughed, shaking his head. "Mate, you absolutely folded him." Sarge exhaled, glancing between Sliver and the unconscious elephant morph. "Efficient. Bit excessive, but efficient." Frost stepped forward, eyes still sharp, but there was something new there. Respect. "Target secured," he said. Then to Sliver, "Next time, we don't half-kill the target." Sliver looked at him.
Understood.
No apology, no emotion, just acceptance. The chopper ride back was louder, much louder. Dozer was still laughing. "Did you see his face when you got on top of him?" Zip mimicked the scene dramatically. Bam, 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 lights out. Timber shook his head. "I didn't even stand a chance, mate." Sarge allowed himself a small smirk. "Remind me not to get on your bad side." Even Frost seemed lighter. The tension was gone. The mission was successful, and Sliver proven himself. They cheered him, laughed, talked like he was part of it now. Sliver sat beside them quietly, watching them, listening, trying to understand it. After a while, he spoke.
"What happens to him?"
The noise died down instantly. They all knew who he meant. A brief silence passed between them, then Zip shrugged. "Honestly, Dozer leaned back. We don't know. Sarge's expression hardened slightly. Containment. Processing. After that, Timber snorted. Depends what Laydon wants out of him. Sliver's gaze shifted slightly.
What does Laydon want with him?
Could be anything now, said Timber. He ran so it won't be pleasant. He wants us beast folk under heel, stated Dozer.
What about us?
The team exchanged glances. Small ones, knowing ones. Then Bulldozer chuckled, though it wasn't as light this time. We're already under Laydon's heel. Zip leaned back, hands behind his head. We do the jobs. Sarge looked out the side of the chopper. We follow orders. Timber shrugged slightly. If not, we end up like the Elephant Man. Frost held Sliver's gaze, then said it plainly. We're puppets of Malcolm Laydon. The chopper hummed steadily as it cut through the sky. Sliver sat in silence again, but this time, something sat with him. He was right. He was a prisoner, and so were they. And for the first time, he didn't feel empty. Sliver's quarters were silent. The walls were smooth and seamless. No windows, just a single dim light overhead and a narrow reflective panel across from where he sat. He hadn't moved for a long time, not because he was resting, because he was thinking. The world still felt unfamiliar. The team's voices echoed faintly in his mind. We are Laydon's puppets. His gaze drifted to his hands, scaled, patterned, strong enough to bend steel. Custom built, as a Laydon puppet. A soft hiss broke the silence. The door slid open. Malcolm Laydon stepped in, as always, calm, composed, and completely in control of the space the moment he entered it. Adjusting well, he observed, Sliver didn't turn immediately. I've reviewed the mission footage, he said, pacing slowly around the room. Your tracking efficiency was optimal. Your engagement speed exceeded projections. A pause, then. But your control did not. Sliver finally looked at him.
He was neutralized.
After you were instructed to disengage? The words weren't raised. They didn't need to be. Sliver held his gaze.
I completed the objective.
Malcolm stopped in front of him. Yes, he said, but you did not follow command structure. He turned. That is being corrected, however. Sliver's eyes narrowed slightly.
How?
Your next assignment, Malcolm said. You are to stay under direct operational command. A flicker of recognition.
Frost.
Correct. Malcolm clasped his hands behind his back. You will follow every instruction given to you, without deviation, without interpretation. Then he paused. I want you to control your instincts. Sliver tilted his head slightly.
My instincts completed that mission.
It also introduces variables, Malcolm replied smoothly. Variables I do not permit. Silence settled awkwardly between them. Then Sliver spoke again.
The Elephant Man, what happens to him?
A brief pause. Not hesitation. Dismissal. That is not your concern, Malcolm stated. Sliver's gaze hardened, just slightly.
He was like me.
Malcolm's expression didn't change. No, he said. He was not. He was a criminal. Sliver didn't look away. Malcolm turned, already moving toward the door. Your next mission will be briefed in full tomorrow, he said. Be ready.
Malcolm!
It stopped him. Not the name, the tone. Malcolm glanced back over his shoulder. He was growing more and more concerned with Sliver's questioning.
What happens to him?
Malcolm studied him for a moment, then gave the same answer. It is irrelevant. Focus on your purpose, Malcolm added. That is what you were made for. Then he left. Silence returned, but it wasn't the same silence. Sliver didn't move at first. His gaze stayed fixed on the door long after Malcolm was gone. Irrelevant. Purpose. What you were made for. The words replayed, over and over in his mind. Something shifted. Small, subtle, and unfamiliar. His hand tightened slightly, claws pressing into his own palm. Not enough to break skin, but enough to feel it. His breathing changed. Just a fraction. Slower, heavier. In his chest, something flickered. Not memory. Something new. Uncomfortable and hot. Images surfaced. The elephant morph's eyes. The fear, desperation. The team's voices were puppets of the Laydon Corporation. His reflection in the panel across the room, a creature built to obey, built to fight, built to not question orders. His claws pressed harder. This time, it'd break skin. A thin line ran down his arm. Dark, almost black blood. He stared at it, at the damage he caused. And for the first time, the feeling had a shape. Not emptiness. Something directed. Anger.
No!
He said quietly. The words came without instruction, without purpose. The feeling grew. A trace of something deeper. Hatred. Not explosive, but there. Coiled. Watching. Waiting. Just like the thing that held his mind all those years. Sliver moved through the corridor alone, absent escort. That, in itself, was new. His next assignment had been clear. Orders were simple. Transport was waiting. Follow Frost. Obey command. He should have gone straight there, but he didn't. A figure turned the corner ahead. Sharp suit, confident stride, and familiar in a different way. It was Hank Laydon. Hank wasn't like Malcolm. Where Malcolm was cold control, Hank carried something more human. Not warmth, but presence. A certain awareness of the world around him rather than ownership of it. He passed by, heading toward the medical wing. Sliver slowed, watched, then followed. Not openly, not obviously. Just there in the background. Silent. The medical bay doors slid open. Rows of rooms lined the corridor, each one sealed behind reinforced glass. Monitors flickered inside, and machines hummed. Hank stopped at one door, looking through the glass, then entered. Sliver stayed back, out of sight, and waited. 5 minutes later, Hank stepped out again, expression unreadable, and walked off without a glance back. The moment he turned the corner, Sliver moved. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a room, too familiar for comfort. A bed, restraints, monitoring systems, and on it, a woman. Dark hair spread slightly across the pillow, her skin pale under the artificial light. She looked, still, not dead, but not fully present either. Sliver stepped closer. Something stirred. He recognized her. He didn't know why, couldn't understand it at all, but he did. His eyes shifted to a nearby display panel. Patient's name, Marta. The world seemed to narrow for a second. His gaze returned to her.
I knew it was you!
There was no response. Of course not. But something inside him reacted. Something personal. He didn't know what that meant or why it mattered, but it did. He stood there longer than necessary, longer than logical, just looking at her, trying to find something in her face that explained the hollow space in his mind. But nothing came. Only that same unfamiliar feeling, almost like concern. Sliver stepped back. The moment had passed. The room returned to what it was. A controlled space. Patient. He turned and left. The corridor outside felt colder now, or maybe he just noticed it more. He walked faster. He was late. He stopped. Someone stood ahead. Not staff, not human. Ghoul. Thin, pale gray skin stretched tight over a gaunt frame. His features sunken, but alert. Movement slow, but deliberate. Not weak, just different. They locked eyes, and for a moment, neither moved. Then Sliver continued walking. As their paths crossed, the ghoul's gaze flicked over Sliver, taking in the scales, the size, and the unnatural stillness. Judging, understanding, maybe more than anyone else here did. Sliver stared back. No hostility on his face. It's just mutual interest. A silent exchange. The ghoul tilted its head slightly, then stepped aside. Sliver didn't speak, didn't nod. He just walked. The rotors of the transport chopper roared. Sliver rushed onto the landing pad. The jungle awaited. The mission awaited. Frost awaited. Hurry up, you're more than late, he called. Sliver just nodded. He didn't look back at the facility. But as he stepped into the chopper, two things stayed with him. That name Marta, Roshek, and a feeling no longer small enough to ignore. Malcolm Laydon was waiting when they returned, standing perfectly still at the edge of the landing platform, hands behind his back, expression already set. That wasn't normal. Malcolm didn't greet him, didn't acknowledge the successful mission. He simply said, "You deviated from assigned movement." Not a question. A statement. Sliver stopped a few feet in front of him.
I went to the medical wing.
I am aware. He looked at the others. The team behind Sliver stayed quiet, instinctively. Even Zip didn't speak. Malcolm stepped closer. You entered a restricted room.
Yes.
You viewed a classified patient file.
Yes.
Each answer landed like a strike. Deliberate, unapologetic. Malcolm's eyes hardened. Why? When I specifically forbid it. Sliver didn't hesitate.
Marta, Rochek.
That name changed something. Malcolm's jaw tightened slightly. You were not authorized to access that information.
But I wanted to know.
That was the wrong answer. Everyone knew it. Malcolm's composure cracked. Not fully. But enough. You do not want anything, he snapped. The words echoed sharply across the platform. Even the team flinched. Slightly. Sliver didn't. He held Malcolm's gaze.
I do.
That made it worse. Malcolm stepped closer again. Now inside Sliver's space. You were not designed for curiosity, he said, voice low but cutting. You were not created to question. Sliver didn't move.
Then why do I?
That was the breaking point. Malcolm's voice rose, controlled, but no longer calm. Because something interfered with your conditioning, he snapped. Because something has corrupted you.
Martha?
I don't know, he said, trying to calm himself. You will not go near her again, understood?
Why?
Because I said so.
That's not an answer.
It's the only one you need. The silence after that was sharp enough to cut.
I want to see her.
Malcolm's expression darkened fully now. No.
Why not?
I just told you why.
That's not a reason.
That did it. Malcolm snapped. You are not supposed to ask why, he shouted. You are supposed to follow orders. Malcolm took a step back, regaining just enough composure to continue. You were built to be emotionless, to be efficient, and to obey. Each word hit harder than the last. That is your purpose. Sliver fell silent. Then he spoke, quiet but firm.
I don't think it is.
That was the most dangerous thing he'd said yet. Malcolm stared at him, cold and calculating. Then he turned away. Back to your quarters, he said. Not a suggestion, command. Sliver didn't resist. Not this time. The team didn't follow, didn't speak, but as he passed them, there was something in their eyes. The door to his room sealed behind him. Sliver stood in the center of the room for a long moment, then slowly sat down. Hands on his knees, claws flexing slightly. Thinking, really thinking. He was built to be mindless, to obey without thought. But something had gone wrong. He now had those things. No one leaves. No one disobeys. Those who try disappear. Hunted, tracked, killed, or worse. His hand moved to his neck again, the transponder, a leash, invisible but absolute, that had to go if he did run. But there might be another option. If he asked, not as a question, but if he told them, if he made it clear, if he offered him something in return, they might not let him go, but they might consider it if he offers him a deal, something of value. That's how Malcolm thought. Everything had a purpose. Everything had a cost. But what could he offer? Sliver leaned forward slightly. The feeling in his chest returned. Not confusion, not emptiness. Something clearer now. Determination. Firm, clear, and certain. I won't stay, he said to himself. He will let me leave, one way or another. For the next 2 days, Sliver was left alone. Malcolm didn't call for him, and there was no mission. He spent the time just trying to figure out what to say when he saw Malcolm again. When the next mission came, he called him over the comm.
Sliver, move to the transport vehicle immediately. Do not detour.
That was it. Sliver did as instructed, where the usual team were waiting. The chopper felt different before it even lifted. No jokes, no noise. Just the low thrum of the rotors and the weight of something unspoken sitting between them. Sliver stepped in last. No one greeted him. Zip didn't bounce. Bulldozer didn't grin. Even Timber kept his head down, adjusting gear that didn't need adjusting. Sarge sat rigid, eyes forward, and Frost just watched him. The door slid shut. The chopper rose, and for a while, no one spoke. Then Frost broke the silence. You okay? Sliver looked Frost in the eyes as if hesitating to speak. What's on your mind? Frost encouraged. Sliver didn't hesitate.
I'm not going on this mission.
Heads turned. Zip blinked. What? Sliver's gaze stayed forward.
Turn us around. I'm going back.
The air tightened. Are you crazy? Dozer muttered. Sarge leaned forward slightly.
I'm telling Malcolm I'm leaving. I'll do missions if I have to, but I won't be kept here.
No emotion in his voice, just decision. Pilot, Frost said calmly. Turn us around. Everyone froze. Even Sliver looked at him. The pilot hesitated, but we have a turn. Us, around. No raised voice, no threat, just command. The chopper banked, slowly at first, then fully, heading back. Zip let out a short, disbelieving laugh. You're serious? Dozer leaned back, staring at Sliver. You just said it, and off we go. Timber shook his head, a grin starting to creep in. You're an absolute madman. Sarge exhaled slowly. This is happening then. Sliver didn't respond. He just sat there, watching the horizon shift as they returned. Zip sat forward, elbows on his knees. You know what this means? Yeah? Dozer cracked a grin. Yeah, I mean someone finally said it out loud. Timber let out a breathy laugh. Been a long time coming. Sarge looked at Frost. Sir. Frost didn't answer immediately. He was still watching, measuring him then. He nodded once. It's time, guys. Small, but decisive. As if they'd always planned to leave someday. When the chopper touched down, no one waited for orders. The door slid open, and they moved. Together, boots hitting the platform in quick succession. Zip was the first to speak again, half laughing as he walked. This is insane. Can't believe we're actually doing this. Bulldozer rolled his shoulders. It's about bloody time. Timber grinned. If we're going down, at least it'll be interesting. Sarge stayed focused, but there was something different in his eyes now. We stick together. Frost stepped forward, leading without being asked. We do this clean, he said. No chaos. No threats. A glance back at them all. We talk. Then we leave. Sliver walked beside him at equal pace. Not behind. Not separate. Together. They moved through the facility corridors as a unit. Staff noticed them. No one stopped them. Not yet. The closer they got, the heavier it felt. Malcolm's office door stood ahead. Closed, waiting. Zip slowed slightly. No backing out now.
No, I'm not.
Frost stepped up to the door, then paused looking at Sliver. One last chance, he said quietly. You walk in there, you don't get to take it back. Sliver met his gaze.
I'm not going to take it back anyway.
Frost looked into his eyes. Then he nodded and opened the door. They all walked in. Malcolm didn't look up right away. The soft glow of his laptop reflected in his glasses. As his fingers moved across the keys, it's like nothing in the world could interrupt him unless he allowed it. And multiple footsteps entered. That made him pause. He looked up then. His eyes moved across the room. Sliver, Frost, and the entire team behind. That wasn't normal. What is the matter? Malcolm asked, brows furrowing. Sliver stepped forward. No hesitation now.
We're leaving.
The room seemed to tighten instantly. Malcolm didn't react outwardly. Not yet. Explain, he said bluntly.
We'll finish this mission. You can still assign us work if you need to, but we won't stay here, not like this. We won't be kept as prisoners.
Malcolm's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. You are not prisoners, he said evenly. You are assets. Sliver didn't break eye contact.
That's the same thing.
Malcolm stood, slowly, controlled, but the tension was there now, sharp and unmistakable. No, he said, it is not. Frost stepped slightly forward, not aggressive, but present. With respect, sir, this does not concern you, Malcolm cut in sharply. It concerns all of us, Frost replied. Malcolm's gaze snapped to him, cold and unforgiving. You are under my command. But Frost didn't back down. Yes, he said, and we followed every order. Then quieter. We're only asking for terms. That word hung in the air. Asking, not demanding, not rebelling. Malcolm looked back to Sliver then, at the rest of them, together. Unified. That was the real problem. You are not in a position to negotiate, Malcolm said. Sliver took another step forward.
Yes, we are.
Malcolm's jaw tightened. You misunderstand your situation?
No, I understand it now. We're leaving. Don't try to stop us.
The words were final, unmovable. Malcolm stared at him, and for the first time, the calm broke. "You will not make it out of this facility," he stated.
We'll try and see.
That was it. Malcolm reached behind his desk, and immediately, alarms erupted. Red lights flooded the room. A piercing siren cut through everything.
Containment protocol initiated.
Mechanical voice echoed through the facility.
All units respond.
Heavy metal footsteps echoed in the hall outside. Combat androids, eyes glowing, weapons primed, blocking the exit. For half a second, no one moved. Then, "Move," growled Frost. Dozer didn't hesitate. He charged. A full-force impact, straight into the first android. Metal crumpling as he drove through it like a battering ram. "Let's go," he roared. Timber followed immediately, grabbing a second android and throwing it into the wall, hard enough to dent reinforced steel. Paths open. Zip vanished forward in a blur, slipping between the chaos. Left corridor. Clear route. Sarge grabbed one of the incoming units, wrenching its weapon arm aside. Go, go, go. Sliver moved last. He surged forward through the opening they created, the team falling in around him as they broke into the corridor. More androids poured in behind them. Malcolm didn't chase. He simply watched them go. The corridors were chaos now. Red lights, alarms screaming, security, doors slamming shut in the distance. "They're sealing the facility," Sarge shouted. "Of course they are." Zip snapped from ahead. "Routes changing, follow me." The corridor ahead split and nearly got them killed. A squad of combat androids turned the corner at the same time they did, optics flaring as weapons came up in perfect sync. "Contact," Sarge shouted. "Run," Frost roared. He didn't slow, didn't hesitate. He turned back, slamming, straight into the lead android, with enough force to drive it into the wall. Metal shrieking as the impact dented both it and the reinforced surface behind it. A second android moved. Frost caught it too, locked both of them down. "Go," he shouted. Sliver's head snapped back for a fraction of a second, but the team was already moving. "Exits ahead," Zip's voice echoed faintly along the corridor. "Keep moving," Sarge snapped. The final corridor opened up, and the exit door came into view, sealed, locked tight under full containment protocol. Dozer didn't even slow down. "Out of the way," barked. Timber matched him stride for stride. "Together," he yelled. They hit it at full speed, two massive bodies slamming into reinforced steel. The door buckled, blowing outward under the impact. Cold air and dust rushed in. Freedom was in their grasp. "Move," Sarge barked. He was through first. Sliver burst through next. It stopped, not from fear, from something else. To the side a figure stood, a ghoul, thin, dressed in worn, almost theatrical clothing, a long coat, wide-brimmed hat, a cowboy. Was he the same ghoul? There was a woman behind him, a scientist by the look of her. Sarge slowed and stopped just for a second. That was enough. Sliver moved instantly, grabbed him, and pulled him forward. The other guys were out now, and heading for the perimeter wall. Gunfire snapped past them as they broke into a sprint. The perimeter wall loomed, high, no gate in sight. "Through or over?" Dozer yelled. "Over," Sarge answered. They didn't slow, didn't plan. They hit it. Sarge launched first, sheer strength, carrying him up and over. Sliver followed, almost leaping in one jump. Timber and Dozer clambered up next. And Zip last. After a brief tussle with the ghoul, they landed hard on the other side and ran across open ground, towards the road. Behind them, shouts, gunfire, and an angry ghoul chased them. Searchlight snapping on. "We need to get off the road," Timber called.
quickly into the canyons.
They veered off immediately, diving into rough terrain, down a slope into shadow. They didn't stop until the ridge swallowed them. An overhang of rock carved into the earth, deep enough to conceal them from above. They dropped into cover, breathing hard, listening. Above, helicopters circled, searchlights cutting through the darkness. "They're sweeping," Sarge said quietly. Dozer looked around, counting. His expression shifted. "Where's Zip?" Timber exhaled slowly, jaw tight. That ghoul caught up to him. Sarge looked away briefly. "Oh yeah, I saw him stop." A heavy pause settled. Then, all eyes turned to Sliver. He was the one who started this, the one who chose this. "What now?" Dozer asked, not blaming, not angry, just being real. Sliver looked up toward the helicopters. Search patterns, movement, timing, then back to the team.
First, we get away from those choppers. Stay low, move fast. No open ground.
Sarge nodded immediately. Agreed. Timber adjusted his stance. We ghosted. "Let's move then." They didn't wait. They moved fast. Low, using the terrain. Every shadow, every dip in the ground. Above them, the helicopter searched. Lights sweeping, close. To close sometimes, but not close enough. They slipped through the dark like something the facility had never intended to create. A team that wasn't following orders. Not anymore. As they moved, Sliver stayed at the front, leading now, because he chose to. And behind them, the facility burned with alarms, and the hunt had already begun. Thank you for watching. Please like the video. It'd make a big difference. Also look out for part 2, coming soon. Till next time, peace.